Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football. There is £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. Congratulations to those who followed our Chris Wood tip last week. 52 points for those who captained him. That's an Antonio against Norwich moment. Not in either of our teams, is in FPL, but that's for a different video and podcast. My name is Joe, and joining me ahead of Gameweek 34's fixtures and Sky is Luke. Luke, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Joe. It was a bit of a rough week for my team because it didn't have Inacho in it. Slowly slipping down the leaderboard as a result. But it wasn't too bad. I think I got 50 points in the end. And, we've all got a sort of a nucleus of about 16, 17 players between us. So I don't think there was too much shifting either way. And the captains, again, a little bit of a letdown. But I think we're all in that position now where these last few weeks and we're sort of conserving our transfers if you've got any for that period, and then also we've obviously got fixtures that aren't quite arranged yet. So gains to be made in the next few weeks, possibly.
Yeah, so I had a better week because I had Ian Atcho and a few others that I'll talk about in a bit. But I'm adopting a beige upside chasing method that I've been doing in FPL, where going for players that are a little bit different, whilst at the same time not shunning the likes of Kane and Salah, who everyone owns. So keeping the shields and going a bit different, and going for the likes of, say, Ian Atcho, and looking at the likes of Mason Mount, for example, is in my team. So going a bit different over Aspilicueta, those sorts of moves, rather than anything bold. But yeah, Chris Wood actually fits into my strategy there. That's why I have him in FPL but not in Sky. So I am slightly kicking myself, but at the same time, there was a decision to be made there. I was available to make it, and I've only got 3 transfers left now. So did I want to make that move? Could I have predicted that size of haul for Chris Wood?
No, I don't think so.
No. I thought he was good for a goal, but not 3 and an assist.
No, I had so limited transfers, I couldn't really do it. But it's more to do with the fact that I've got Kane, Calvert-Lewin and Salah, and because I know Calvert-Lewin's been dreadful, but because he's got these extra games still hanging over, it just made no sense to remove him. If I didn't have him, or it wasn't needed, it was the right entry point to do it, and to get a hat trick, that's absolutely mad. But it's still, and this is going to be my answer. So I think we're probably going to get a lot of questions around this. Should I bring this player? Should I bring that player in? With Chris Wood, because he had those extra the actual games, depending on when you put him in, and then obviously the single match day. But more importantly, his fixtures are good enough to hold him to the end of the season. And for me, that is what should always be in the back of your mind now. If we're bringing in a player, you might like him for this little run or a single captain day. But if you don't like his fixtures for the remaining 2 or 3 games, or you don't want to hold him, I seriously wouldn't be looking at it personally.
No, but he is, as you said, he has got good fixtures, and also
he fits the bill. Yeah,
he fits the bill, and he is a single match day captain that will be low owned. So if you have already got him in, great. I don't think it's the case of it's too late. It's not points chasing at all. As you said, there's reason to get him in from now.
No, ideally you did it the other week, but you can still do it now. And when you look at these individual match days that we're probably going to get, which are a bit horrific, I'll save it to the questions. But there's people who are thinking, should I get X player? But again, their riding mantra will be, do you want them from now to the end of the season, really? And for those guys, maybe not as much as Wood.
No. Let's have a look at the latest Tier 2 and Man of the Match stars for the week. Man of the Match, Luke Shaw, who is statistically, I believe, the best attacking defender in Europe, nay the world, nay the universe, or certainly in Manchester. Mason Mount, man of the match, I was pleased about that. Pereira, that's the West Brom one. Ian Atcho, Chris Wood, obviously, and Richarlison, which is interesting, especially with Everton's fixtures coming up, and Richarlison being slightly better at the moment than Calvert-Lewin. Passing Tier 2, the Leicester defenders, so I know you've got Sionchu. If you've got Leicester defenders, well done. Alexander-Arnold, Lewis Dunk. If you kept hold of Lewis Dunk, just keep him, because he's a 5 point to 10 point a week man. And Rob Holding. And notice that David Luiz is back in training, so this could be the end of Rob Holding. Which it could be handy because it coincides with Leeds fixtures getting good, and they've got a certain Mr. Dallas who's rather good. Tackles Tier 2, Luke Dean, Ayling, Liverpool defenders basically, Kabak and Robertson, and Tielemans, who's languishing my B team, and I'm quite enjoying having him. He's always good to have in this team. I have an assists imminent table on Fantasy Football Scout. He is top of that at the moment. He is underperforming in terms of his chance creation at the moment. He should have been getting assists, so that indicates in good fixtures he will.
You know he's going to get a penalty before the season's out when Vardy goes off in the last few minutes for the FA Cup final. It's happened so many times. So he'll get probably one haul at least before the season's out as a result of that at the moment.
Good for a haul there. Saves tier 2, Dubravka. Newcastle's form is improving. Fabianski and Johnston there. And shots tier 2, Chris Wood, as you would expect. Mason Greenwood, still an alternative to Bruno there. Firmino, I'm not sure many people will go for him. And Mason Mount. So thank you, Mason, for helping me move up the rankings a little bit. So let's have a look at your team. We'll get it here. I'll find it. There we go. So we've got your team here. So for the benefit of those listening to the podcast version, you've got Martinez, Azpilicueta, Sionchu, Diaz, Saka, Fernandes, Bowen and Rafinha, Kane, Calvert-Lewin and Salah. So you've got a lot of players that are well owned, but you do have some differentials there. For example, not having Iheanacho, if Leicester keep a clean sheet and Iheanacho doesn't score,
that's not a great differential at the moment.
No, it's a big if for that one. But Saka, Bowen,
Yeah. Well, again, my thought process was I can't bring in the same players as everyone else now. I need to take a few punts because these are my last few transfers I'm using, and I've got to keep them to the season end. I talked about it last week how I would have preferred Holding over Saka, and Holding has outscored Saka as I expected. But now Luiz is back. Would that cause me another issue for a transfer I don't want to use? So that's why I went Saka. Unfortunately, it's not worked out so far. Bowen's been okay. I mean, he's done pretty good in the matches he's played. Obviously not last week, but he's been close to Lingard since I got him, so that's not a problem really. Rafinha's annoying now with his injury, but given how good Leeds fixtures are to the end of the season, I'm still not 100% sure when he's likely to come back.
Well, the news just now was that he is at the end stage of his recovery.
Right.
He's definitely out for the next fixture.
Okay.
But the indication is that he's probably back after that, which does coincide with Leeds' run getting even better. So there's one to monitor there.
It's one of those ones that could cost you. That's it, isn't it? You could remove them now and maybe get one or two extra fixtures, maybe even three. And even in that case scenario, Rafinha seems to be that good, and the games are that good that Rafinha could still bite back and end up scoring similarly. Unless you're missing out on a really, you haven't got Kane, for example, and you could do Rafinha as a Kane. Fair enough. That's probably going to result in some points, but I don't think there's too many other options, and there's a lot of teams uncertain at the moment in terms of their starting lineup, like our reliable Chelsea's and Man City defenders, for example. So it's a tough one. For me, I'll be keeping him unless there's any other news. But yeah, I've got 11 different players from 11 different teams, so I'm hopefully not going to suffer too much with the upcoming fixtures. And that was generally the plan here, just to get a nice spread and sort of, with the lack of transfers, I didn't really think I had much of an option rather than double down like we did earlier in the season with multiple City or multiple Chelsea. But given the option, I would have probably got Chris Wood and I would have got one or two Leicester maybe. Problem is we sort of go on these periods in time where things flip very quickly in terms of which is the best position. So like defenders are suddenly really key. Well, Man City were keeping clean sheets and Chelsea were there. Then we suddenly had midfielders roaring back when we had all sorts of Lingard came in, Rafinha, Fernandes was in form. And then forwards have been dreadful of late. But then with Iheanacho's rise, Salah and Kane have been chipping away more than they were before. Salah in particular wasn't scoring at all for a while. And then you've got Chris Wood come in and stuff like that. So suddenly forwards are looking like reasonable again. And if Rafinha's out, you probably want Bamford for the remaining fixtures, I would suggest. So, it's funny how it changes, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like 5 striker slots at the moment. That would be great. And with Rafinha as well, looking at, it's just, as you said, it's just one of those moves where if you're down to 2 or 3 transfers, to be honest, I've been in a position before, the end of the season with 2 or 3 transfers left, and if a player gets injured, just sort of leave it, especially if they're a cheaper one, and just go in with 10 players. And I've done that before. I think I remember getting a Manchester United defender who was, one of those 4 million ones. and just riding it really. And I was quite pleased with that. The other thing about this stage of the season with injuries is as we're getting less games, if they're serious the injury, they're going to be ruled out for the season. They're just going to get them recuperate from now. That's the way it's going to be. They're not going to rush Rafinha back for the last match if they're in mid-table. There's nothing, but the fact that they think he's going to be back soon indicates that he will be. It is minor. An example would be Harvey Barnes, obviously out again for surgery, ruled out for the season. That's the way it is. So I've hope with Rafinha.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that note actually, because I did say I wasn't going to go for Iñárritu for the reason that potentially he's not nailed now. Obviously, now that Barnes injury and his form has just continued to go up. I mean, he's obviously nailed at the moment, isn't he? I don't think there's any chance they could be dropping him the way he's playing. And now Barnes is definitely out. That's fine. But, at the time when the initial thought was to go with him, I don't think it's a particularly bad call, because Sky is a game where it can burn you if you jump on these kind of players that don't often play all the time. I mean, everything in history about since he's been at Leicester tells us that he doesn't play. So I think if you avoid them more often than not, over the course of many seasons, it will actually be up on the deal. This was obviously an example where it didn't work out that way. But again, we'll have a similar situation next season where a striker might come from nowhere. Maybe a Vidra, for example, will look good for a little while. And then things will revert, or the injury and someone will come back, and suddenly you've wasted a transfer to bring him in, a transfer to take him out. When you haven't got any bench, it's not really the way to go, I think. But, in hindsight now, given how well Iñárritu's played, and then the Barnes thing definitely would have gone for him. He's unbelievable.
I've got 3 transfers left. Every one is crucial at the moment, so I'm not planning any at the moment. But obviously, when the fixtures come out, which we're all waiting for the end of May, that's when I'll look at that. If I'm covered for them, if they come out now and I'm covered for them, then I don't see why I wouldn't get Chris Wood in, because he's good for the duration. He does cover me for the single captains, and if there's single days, I think Southampton and Palace might be where I'm lacking, but we're going to come to that, I know, with the questions a bit later. So here's my team. So I've gone up 100 places. So I was outside the 500. I'm now just outside the top 400. I've got 3 transfers left though, and there's a few with around me who've got a few more transfers. So I've got Martinez in goal, Rob Holding, Alexander-Arnold and Sionchu. So all of them got me returns, all of those defenders. Lingard, Mason Mount, who got 10 points. Fernandez blanked. Rafinha obviously didn't play. Kane obviously didn't play, but decided to keep him. Iñárritu, there's the big difference there, 26 points. And then Salah, obviously 18 points, who's well owned. So yeah, the key differences for me over those around me, around the 400, 500 mark, was making sure I got Iñárritu and a Leicester player. So those that haven't doubled up or tripled up on Leicester have missed out. But yeah, Mason Mount, just a few more points over Azpilicueta, just a little bit more. He's one of those moves I sort of wish I'd done a bit earlier, really, those kind of moves. And same rationale why you got Jared Bowen in. No plans, no changes.
I'm a little bit worried about Azpilicueta this week, actually. I know there's a little break. I think it's maybe 4 days after this fixture versus Fulham until they play again. But he's played right wing back now 2 in a row. He's getting on a bit, and then they're probably going to want him right wing back again versus PSG.
Yeah.
So that'd be 4 games in a row, 3 of them at right wing back.
Yeah.
So I don't think he'll play versus Fulham. I mean, he might do. But you could just play in the set.
There was another rationale why I got Mason Mount in, was because he does tend to play at some point, and I'll take Mason Mount last 20 minutes over any other Chelsea defender, for example. 20 minutes is going to be no good to me, but Mason Mount in 20 minutes. But I hope he'll start, and he does seem to be the most regular starter. Havertz, Werner, perhaps better, Pulisic, better potential point scorers, but they can't score if they're not on the pitch.
Well, I also think that he makes such a big difference to them that they almost have to bring him on for the last 20 minutes if he doesn't start most of the time. Chelsea, it just makes sense, doesn't it? In between 2 Champions League games, Fulham, I know they're still going for the top 4 and Fulham are fighting for their lives, but Fulham can't really score. It feels like they could just cruise to a 0-0 or 1-0 win there if they want to bring Mount on the last 20 minutes. Rudiger's played about 6 or 7 games in a row as well.
Now,
Is it 7? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wouldn't be surprised there's a little bit of rotation there. I mean, we're going to get to captains in a bit. Luckily, we get to see the Man City lineup, so I think that's probably where most people will go.
You say most. I've got my team on the screen here. I don't have any Man City. I don't plan to have any Man City.
Oh, okay.
So I am going to take a bit of a risk. So yeah, we'll come to those fixtures as well now. It's a good time to do that. So let's look at captains. Friday, 30th of April, Southampton against Leicester. Your Leicester player, whichever one you've got. For me, I'm going to go for Iheanacho. If you've got Vardy, if you've got Sionchu, just whoever it is. If you've got Castagna, captain him, I would imagine. You don't captain Vestergaard that day.
No, I wouldn't do that. No, I think Iheanacho is the standout one here. Obviously, Southampton are very leaky, and Southampton have got this habit. I mean, they've changed around the way they play quite a bit, but I don't think Leicester will get passing Bow in this one, or it might be close. It depends. If they play a back three, they've always got a chance of getting it. But Southampton are very high energy and press the the defenders, don't they? So I'm not sure. Basically, what I'm saying is if you've got Maddison, Iheanacho, defenders and everything, I mean, I don't think many people need this advice. They'll be going Iheanacho anyway, I would have thought, and he's probably the standout.
This is the tricky day. Well, certainly tricky for me. Saturday, 1st of May, Crystal Palace against Man City. We get to see the lineup, which is crucial for Man City at the moment, sandwiched between 2 Champions League ties. Then Brighton against Leeds, Chelsea against Fulham, Everton against Villa. So for me, my choice is Mason Mount or Martinez. So that's not ideal. For you, you can go Diaz. But what do you do if Diaz isn't in the lineup?
This is the problem. I mean, if Diaz is obviously going to be if he's in the lineup. If he's not, I don't have anyone for Brighton Leeds because Rafinha's out. Chelsea, Fulham, I'm not prepared to risk Azpilicueta in the game as much as I think that's a 10-pointer nailed.
Yeah.
Nails, God, I shouldn't have said that, should I? And then the final game's Everton Villa, which just feels I don't want to captain anyone in that game, but I've got Calvert-Lewin and I've got Martinez, so I suppose I would go Calvert-Lewin because he's at home. But the problem is Everton are dreadful at home. They've been absolutely shocking there, and to be honest, Martinez might be the better pick because he might get saves bonus. I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. It'll end up on one of Calvert-Lewin or Martinez. And in those situations, I generally favour the striker because the goalkeeper just concedes one and suddenly it's 2-pointer, isn't it? Whereas Calvert-Lewin could get shots on target.
Yeah, could do. I mean, for me, I'm just going to roll the dice with Mason Mount. If you don't play, whatever. But I'll take a 20-minute Mason Mounter that day. If you have Lewis Dunk still, I think he is the best captain for that day. Because I think with Rafinha out, there's strong possibility of a clean sheet. Even if they don't keep a clean sheet, Lewis Dunk pretty much on 5 points. So you're looking at a 10-point captain. So if he does keep a clean sheet, it could be a nice return. Could be a really good differential captain that day. Moving on to the Sunday. Newcastle against Arsenal. Manchester United against Liverpool. Tottenham against Sheffield United. With Manchester against Liverpool, hard to call. Fernandes, Salah, out of the equation, I think, for the captaincy. Hey presto, Kane has Sheffield United at home. So that's an easy choice, I would imagine.
I don't think anyone's going to be brave enough to swing away from that one, are they?
No.
I think it's it's one of those ones where even if you're 3rd or 4th in your league and you know everyone above you is going to go Kane, I'm not sure I'd take this day as the one to chance it, to be honest with you.
No. And then on Monday, the 3rd of May, we have West Brom against Wolves and Burnley against West Ham. If you have Chris Wood, captain him. That's a good one. Also, those with Jesse Lingard, Bowen. So I guess Bowen is your captain that day. But there are rumours that, I don't know whether there's smoke without fire, and I don't want to worry people, but there was something in the Sun about Jesse Lingard's kind of race to be fit, but it was an article about nothing really.
Yeah, no.
But why print it? I mean, it's like me saying Joe is race to be fit for this video, just because, don't know.
I think they've based that on the fact that he's been limping a little bit in the games and then he had cramp, and I don't know what they've based it on. But the ex-West Ham employee has basically said he's been training all the time and he's just being managed. So I'd be surprised if he misses out, to be honest. Yeah,
definitely. I think crucial for Jesse Lingard is Cresswell. We did some analysis on the captaincy video earlier this week with David for FPL, but same applies. If Cresswell is in the team, that helps the whole team, that sets up the play, and Jesse Lingard benefits eventually down the line as the ball moves up the pitch. Without Cresswell, they find that more difficult process, so Jesse Lingard is less of an option. And hey presto, what have we seen the last few weeks with Cresswell out? Jesse Lingard's points have dried up the last couple of matches. Also, he did get a penalty. He got a penalty, but open play, it wasn't great shakes. So I think with this game, I've got no choice. I'm going to captain Jesse Lingard. But if Cresswell is out and you have Chris Wood and you're thinking Chris Wood or Jesse Lingard, I would favour Chris Wood myself for that fixture. But yeah, up to people there. Okay, so we've got some questions here, so I'm just going to read these out neat straight from Twitter, so hopefully there's no swearing. I was Ian Parrin, Planet Sky, must be loads.
Oh, he's a massive swearer.
He's a massive swearer, yeah. He's potty-mouthed Ian. So with transfers now at a bare minimum, asks Ian, and no sign yet of any imminent fixture announcements, is doing nothing until May the 10th a reasonable option? Could keeping your powder dry put you in a position to make greater strides in the last 3 weeks? So for me, yes. I mean, I've got 3 left. And sometimes you can make 2 moves and you can daisy chain players along. And if I've only got 1 left by then and they announce the fixtures, I'm stuffed basically. I will only look essentially a red arrow.
No. Experience has taught me that you want to have 1 for the final day because quite often the final day lineups are a mess. I mean, ideally you'd want more, obviously, but if you can aim to have it 1 for the final day, just even if you want to make a difference, you're second overall in the world, for example, the guy above you's 11 points, you've got a pretty good idea he's going to captain. You're obviously going to try and swing with a different captain on the final day, right? And you might need to bring someone in. I mean, some of the teams might play some kids. There's all sorts of stuff you don't know. So definitely want 1 for the final day for me. And then on that sort of note, I think if you're in the area of sort of 2, 3, 4 transfers, like most people seem to be, I think, there's not too much room for tactical swaps now. The tactical swaps will come later, and there is going to be still some rotation and injuries that are going to catch us out. Like we've seen it already. The amount of injuries I've got in the last few weeks, and I'm assuming a lot of people are like that as well. I wouldn't be looking to make any moves particularly. If you're sat there with 7, 8, and you can see a move right now that's going to net you, 2 extra games, or the Chris Wood move with the captain, or Zaha's an option, for example, because we think that Southampton Palace are going to have an individual day. They've got some quite good fixtures. It's all making sense to potentially go Zaha, but that could be a tactical swap that could also backfire because Zaha's not a particularly good, reliable.
I've done that before. I got Zaha in for 2 single match days in a row.
So it could backfire on you. And he's a midfielder, and I think he's a midfielder. Pretty sure he is. I'm more inclined to do that. Take the punts in midfield because most of the midfielders aren't particularly good. So maybe that's about the only tactical one I'd consider him. Maybe Chris Wood. Apart from that, I think you want to keep your powder dry, like he says, and wait for the fixture changes.
I think so. That's what I'm going to do. I think at the moment, my team and I expect many others, Chris Wood is the only one I would consider bringing in because he does have a single match day coming up in the following week. Plus, he is a good captaincy option coming up. So you're getting those 2 captains, and don't think you've missed points. We move on. So for reasons unknown, somehow Sanchez for Brighton is still in my Sky team. He's got no budget constraint, but which goalkeeper is best to upgrade for the remainder of the season? Well, my personal advice is looking at the fixtures for Gameweek 34. Definitely don't remove him at the moment. Brighton against Leeds. I think Sanchez is a reasonable captaincy shout if you don't have any City coverage, especially he obviously hasn't got Martinez. So, but afterwards, who would you say would be a good if you've got the transfers to do?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm with you. I mean, I'd leave him in. I know they've got Leeds away to Wolves. Wolves are looking shocking at the moment. They haven't really got a forward still. Brighton are very tight defensively. I wouldn't be concerned. Then they're home to West Ham. Yeah, tougher game, but they haven't got their striker. Brighton could make that a very, very tough game. That could be low scoring. I mean, Brighton generally try to make most games low scoring. Fair enough, then you've got City and Arsenal, but when we know the keepers, Arsenal's not particularly good. Home to City, that could be a heavily rotated City side. You just don't know. And in any case, I think save points are on offer there. So I'd be tempted just to completely leave it. But if you ask me who's the best keeper from now to the end of the season, like no money, I think it's probably just Ederson because Man City are the best team. They've got four really good fixtures, I think. One of them might be home to Chelsea, which I think will probably be low scoring. I'm not sure how much effort Chelsea will put into winning that game. And obviously they keep the game tight anyway. So just for the fact that he's nailed and most other people may miss their Man City option, you don't need to worry about him being in the lineup. If you're suddenly stuck on a day and your captain's not playing from the early kickoff and you look at the fixtures and Man City are at 8 o'clock and you're like, I don't know whether I can give it to Diaz, whatever. Well, you can give it to Ederson and be safe that he's probably going to play. So, I think Ederson probably.
Yeah, definitely. So Tom Hartnell asks, we've sort of half answered this already, but he said, is there Burnley Fulham games, a single match day in 35, worth covering now? He's seeing a big Nick Pope move in his head. Who loves a single day as an option for that one. So I've already said Chris Wood is a good option. My mindset about Burnley is you've got to alter it. We all think of Burnley as the defensive side who can't attack. Now they are the attacking side who can't defend. If you own Nick Pope already, well, okay. But I would say if you're thinking of getting a Burnley player in for that and you have the transfers, I think it's definitely Chris Wood. He's the man on form, and he's a good captaincy option against West Ham this Monday. And I don't think Nick Pope isn't. So that'd be my answer.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I know Fulham struggled to score, and you could easily get a 9-pointer there, but I don't know. I just feel like they've got good fixtures and you can leave them in, fair enough. But you're literally you're putting a lot on that Fulham Burnley game because it's only really that one extra game over your goalkeeper, because then your goalkeeper will have another 3 games after that, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So you're basically doing a transfer on a goalkeeper for one day where he concedes, and that's that. And I don't like transfers essentially for 1 week, which that is close. You could argue is for that.
Now the guy who's assisting Chris Wood and did at the weekend, Dwight McNeil, if you want to be different, and he's nailed. And you were talking about midfield. Midfield's where to do it. Dwight McNeil, I wouldn't be averse to that. I think he's a good captaincy shout for Burnley, and they've got good fixtures coming up. So an option.
Anderson's the other one we haven't spoken about. Actually, it's the Fulham defender. He's obviously very good. Gets passing bonus occasionally. They're going to be fighting for their lives. They play away to Chelsea. Then they play home to Burnley. Then they play away to Southampton. And who's their other game? I'm missing. Away to Man United's obviously tough I think that's 37. And then they're home to Newcastle, 38. So apart from the Man United game, arguably the Chelsea one, I think they're all going to be quite low scoring, and he could do okay. So maybe him, but again, you're bringing in a Fulham defender with one of your few remaining transfers when, getting a I don't know, final day. Let's say Aguero's playing at home to Everton, and it's his final send off. Do you want to bring Aguero in and think you might score 2 or 3 goals on that one day, and suddenly he's your captain and he's got you 30, 60 points in one? I think that's arguably a better option.
And final question: FPI off spinner. He's only 5 transfers left. That's 2 more than me, mate. And presently, he's doing well. And presently holding Jota. Do you think he should sell? He says, do you think I should bring in Salah for Liverpool's excellent end of season fixtures? He's not clear there whether that's instead of Jota or as well as Jota. I have a problem with Jota at the moment because he's not lasting the 90. He's not guaranteed to start, and Salah is the better captaincy option. But nevertheless, Jota is a differential. I personally went for Alexander-Arnold as the differential of Liverpool, and I stick with that still. But I think if you've got Jota, even with 5 transfers, I'd probably keep him. Maybe. What would you do?
I'm exactly the same. It's hard to answer because I basically wouldn't have Jota in my team in the first place, but it's done now, and I don't mean that. I don't mean that harshly because he was a good differential and he was looking fantastic at one point. So fair enough. If it's the Jota to Salah, as much as I think Salah will outscore Jota, I think there's potentially more gains elsewhere because Salah's even fasting at the moment, right? So there might be the odd game where they give him to recuperate. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, that's a stretch. And he could easily do quite similarly. I think there's going to be, the way the fixtures are going to hopefully fall is there might be 2 and 3 for ones coming up when all these game weeks switch around for the home fans, and you're more likely to get gains off of a sort of a player who gets 2 or 3 extra games and maybe one of them's a captaincy as well than you are just doing a straight Jota to Salah. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think have both, but I would just keep, because Jota can get a goal even if he's a sub. He comes on the last 20 minutes.
He's been excellent until the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
In fact, arguably he's better when he's a sub and coming on. So that's what I would do there. But FPI off spinners in a good position there. They've got more transfers than you and I. But we move on. It's a terrible cliche which often follows a really poor we move. We're going to hopefully get better. Hopefully we're going to get some fixtures out soon. So the next video and podcast will have much more information, and we'll better tell you a bit more information about what to do with your transfers and where to take those risks to climb up the rankings. But in the meantime, Luke, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your game week.
Thank you very much, Joe. I shall see you on the next one.